We create jobs and make entrepreneurial dreams come true. ACE, a nonprofit community lender, specializes in small business loans coupled with business advisory services. ACE has loaned more than $39 million, helped over 725 business owners fulfill their dreams, and ACE has helped its clients create or retain more than 6,200 jobs. These are the stories of those businesses we've helped reach success and claim their American dream.
Welcome to Ace's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. Each week, Ace's Best Stories brings you the story of someone building their own business along their own entrepreneurial journey. Today, we're talking with Gwen Brandon. She is the president of PCG Screening.
Hello.
Hello. So PCG Screening, what do you guys do?
PCG Screening is a background screening service. So we do background checks and HR consulting for different small businesses and some larger organizations throughout Atlanta.
We should have played 20 questions because I wasn't quite sure, and I was thinking maybe you were, screening is T-shirts and things, and then I thought maybe it was a medical thing and whatever. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a really important part for a lot of companies. Like
it is.
As they start to add more benefits and bring more people on, they add those services typically.
Correct. So a lot of small businesses around the local area and a lot of larger organizations, they all use some type of background screening service because we're just in an age now where, unfortunately, you can't trust everybody and what they put on their paper. Right. So, their paperwork may say that they have, different educational backgrounds or different skills, different skill sets and everything like that. So we just want to verify to make sure that information is correct. I think there was a story recently in the White House. There was a young man who fudged his resume and he became like a director of policy or something like that for the White House.
Oh, you're kidding.
No. And he's going to resign at the end of this month because they found out that he did not graduate from Fordham University like he said. So, I mean, it's a really important tool for business owners to use.
And so is it just business owners? Is it just like education and things? Or are you doing also is it criminal background checks?
Correct.
Okay.
We do everything from criminal to education to employment references. We also do driver's license history, so we can do national.
Isaac, do driver's license history.
We can do national background.
That's why Isaac started his own company.
Oh, really? Good for you, Isaac. But yeah, we can do local, so just Georgia only, or we could do if we have people from out of state, we can do different states. We can do a national level check. We can do federal crimes. We can do bankruptcy screenings. We can do credit checks. So
and that's important for different businesses.
Yes.
I owned a research company for a long time, and my front of house people managed about $100,000 a year, some years $200,000 of incentives that we were paying out.
Oh, awesome.
And we had to understand financial because they were issuing the checks on behalf of the company.
Yes.
So, and do you do screening for like contractors who might come to your house, the companies that do that?
We can do. So what the way the website works is you can go on the website and you can fill out the information for whatever employee or subject you want investigated. You choose from the variety that we have listed, and then I'll run the check and then send you a report. So if you want to do it for a babysitter or for a plumber, even tenants for, if you have, your own property, real estate.
Okay, so you're very comprehensive. Yeah, because sometimes it's certain segments.
Correct.
But yeah. So how did you get into PCG Screening? You're just a curious person?
It's a funny story. So PCG Screening was started in 2003 by a young lady by the name of Gaina Chastain. Gaina Chastain is a former FBI agent, and she just wanted to spend more time at home with her kids and her husband. And her husband is a Delta employee. So funny story is that Gaina placed her business for sale in October. And
October of last year?
Yes, October 2017. And I think I saw the posting like the next day. I called the broker and spoke to him, and he put me in touch with Gaina, and the next thing you know, we've transferred everything over. So it's a fairly new business for myself, but the similarities between Gaina and myself is just, it's amazing.
Is it?
Yes. She's former
FBI. So you're
FBI.
Former FBI?
I'm former military.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I did something similar in the military. My husband too works at Delta, and PCG Screening stands for People Checked by Gaina originally, and now it's People Checked by Gwen.
Wow.
Is this not destined? This was supposed to be my company. Like this.
That's awesome.
This is what I was supposed to do. And I'm just now in a state where my husband and I are trying to have kids. So, it's a good time for me to get into a space where I can work from home and not have to be in the hustle and bustle of Atlanta traffic.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
So did you retire from the military? Is that what happened?
I did not. I did 10 years in the military, and then I worked for the CDC.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Okay.
As a management program analyst, so analyzing different issues, trying to figure out how to improve processes and make some things better. So it's kind of similar. I do a lot of HR HR for the CDC now. So it's still my primary focus, HR consulting, and just making sure that people are really who they say they are before you bring them on board and start to give them money.
And so that's an interesting model so the decision, I don't know that I'm quite sure that I understand why you decided that you wanted to go do this. So you just got tired of traffic one day and threw the keys out the door and said,
I've been looking for different businesses for some time, and I just couldn't find anything that fit where I am as a person. So I'm not in a position to where I can just quit my job and full time and just work, into my own business. I can't do that right now. So I do have to have something that's manageable, something that I can, that's flexible, that I can take with me. So again, this is completely an online based business, so I can take this work wherever I need to go. So that's the biggest issue for me, and it's flexible in the time constraints. So I can work.
So this is a side hustle for you.
Correct.
Still.
Right now.
Okay.
Right now, I have 5 years left until I can officially retire from federal service. So that's the plan: is to do this,
and that's smart,
and to manage this business until I can retire, and then this will be my primary focus at that time.
Okay. So talking about what's interesting is that you're on the receiving end of a business. So the business has been around.
Correct.
And I work with a lot of companies around how that eventual sale might happen. You're like, hey, how do we put this thing into a place that you could give it to someone? Because it's not like a house or a car.
Correct.
You don't just hand the keys over and say good luck, right?
No.
So what are some things in that transfer as you started to take this business over that have been very helpful to you, and maybe what are some things you wish you'd had as you put this together?
Gaina has been very, very helpful. She's very flexible in the amount of training that we had. We outlined the amount of time for turnover during the sale. So it was, known up front that it's going to be 30 days worth of training time. And then because of the holidays, because we actually closed on the 1st of December. So because of the holidays, we did allocate a few additional days after that. And then we also worked out between the two of us, just in case type of fallbacks. So if there's something that we weren't able to go over just because it never came up, then she's available for me to contact her. And if there are anything that I haven't done, or if I need a consultant. So we also talked about her acting as a consultant if something ever came up, or I needed more assistance with the business while I was kind of juggling the two jobs.
Yes, so this is really new for you.
Yes, super new. Invoicing was a big learning curve, I think.
It's an important thing to learn.
Yes. Yes. And then I think the transition between the two, because like I said, she's had this business for so long. I think when you have fresh eyes that come into something, you immediately want to make changes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I do anyway on a day-to-day basis, is I improve processes. So I came into the business and I learned what she did, and maybe 3 weeks in, I had a whole list of things that I needed to update just to make it more smooth and more relevant to the time that we're in. You think about the changes between 2003 and 2018 as far as technology is concerned and what we're able to do remotely and via the web and internet. So there are a lot of different things that I'm doing with the website now, a lot of updates and things to make the whole process a lot more simple and easier for the consumer on the other end. So
yeah, and I've always talked about bringing new employees in. I always lived the first 90 days.
Yes.
And I wanted them to tell me, ask me why we're doing something.
Yes.
And I'm not going to be annoyed, because I might be curious too.
Correct.
Why are we doing it this way? And if I can't answer it, then maybe we've just always done it this way, right?
It's just easier. Or maybe, the finances weren't there. There are a lot of different things, but...
Well, and you'll run into a process that's such and such put this in place for this one thing we don't even worry about anymore, right? That
Exactly.
doesn't exist.
Yes.
Like, this person needed to check this box, and it's like, we just checked the box. We have no idea, So... Your job doing the process improvement has definitely got to help that.
Yes, it is. And like I said, I think this initial... I'm kind of doing the 90-day review as well. But there are some things that I know immediately off the bat. I knew that it just wasn't going to work for me. We had to do some updates. And like I said, the website was one of those bigger ones. It was just, when you look at it, it's just kind of old. And so I was like, we could probably do some things with it. And luckily the web developer she already had somebody on staff. So she gave me all of her vendor contacts and all of the clients that she had previously. They all transferred over with the business. So it was a pretty smooth transition, actually. I was actually surprised that it went through so smoothly. But I put the web developer to work immediately.
You're like, but gotta fix that. It's like we bought a house that's new to us, but it's like from 81. And the first couple of years you're in a house, you're just continually changing stuff.
Yes.
And then eventually you say, okay, I'm just going to live with it, right?
Yep.
And so the longer you're there, then you stop paying attention to that stuff. Yeah. So in the transfer of clients and things, did you just send a letter out and say there's a new owner in town, or?
No. So I think transitioning your clients and your customers is a little bit more tricky. And so we didn't want people to feel like that she was abandoning them. So what we did was we worked together, and there was a lot of verbiage in the first month, so all through December. And then we just recently started to push out some transitioning information. So she's moved on to just doing HR consulting now. She's still doing some things, but just not on such a large scale. But
so she positioned it as she was bringing you on
to work for the company, yes.
And then
and so now she's got an email draft out, and we've sent out a notice to all of the clients saying, Gwen's taking over day-to-day operations. I'm moving on to do, another venture, and this is where we are right now. So in the 1st of February, we'll send out that official notification letting everyone know that this has been a takeover, and it's now people checked by Gwen.
Well, and that's smart because clients get used to working with one specific person. Yes. And they're buying because of that.
Correct.
And then when you start to try to transfer to somebody else, there can be some angst on the side of the client.
And a lot of times people just bail just because they don't know. So we wanted them to get the feel that all of the operations would still run the same, that there wouldn't be any change really in any of the reports, nothing major that they would have to be concerned about. The services would still be the same. You're still going to receive timely and accurate background checks. It's just coming from a different person.
Just another G. So, all right. Well, we're going to go to a commercial break, and when we get back, I want to unpack that a little bit more.
Okay.
Talk about some of the things that going into it that maybe you are different than you expected. Okay. I mean, you're so new, but that's really kind of cool, right?
I know, it's awesome.
Yeah, you're like, this is great. This is something maybe I didn't know. Some of your plans for how you market your business.
Yes.
What does that look like? How does that work? And then what are are you going to grow it to something else? Or you
have no idea.
Look for another G?
Yes.
There's going to be multiple G's. You have to, if you can't work for the company unless your last name is in G.
Yeah, there you go.
First name is a G. Sorry.
It's got to be a G in there somewhere.
All right, so we'll be back in a second. You're listening to Ace's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We're talking today with Gwen Brandon. She's the president of PCG Screening, taking care of all of your background screening needs.
Yes, sir.
We'll be back in a second.
If it wasn't for ACE, my business may have closed in 1 year.
If it wasn't for ACE, my business wouldn't be expanded as much as it's expanding right now. They were there for me at the time of my need.
If it wasn't for ACE, we would not be here today.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for ACE, I would very much still be cooking at an hourly rate, and I would have never impacted hundreds of lives and an entire community.
I still remember going to different kind of banks, big banks, and with papers, and these people send me back because I don't have, I had experience in the restaurant business, but I don't have, everything else this bank needed, and ACE believe in me.
I did the research in Adult Day. I had experienced it personally because my grandfather had Alzheimer's, so I wanted to do the business myself. get into it because I knew I could make a difference.
Initially, when we started, there was only one person, which would be me. And then the company have grown from 1% to 8, and we provide quality assurance, quality control testing for FDA-regulated companies.
I think Grace not only completely understands what it's like to start off in an office connected to your laundry room or wherever she was, but she also understands the growth process. And I think that she does an excellent job of making sure that everybody who works with ACE has an understanding of the kind of struggles and celebrations that you can have.
ACE has helped us with putting our business idea into the market, working with us with the business actually working, actually showing us, guiding me personally how to solve some of my marketing issue problems or with the business planning.
You don't meet many lenders that are invested in your success. And, from their classes or presentations, seminars, they really do have a vested interest in your success.
The best advice I can do to small business owners is follow your dreams. Always follow your dreams, follow your heart.
Have a plan. Just because you have a passion for it doesn't mean that you can start a good business.
Get ready for the ride of your life, and definitely make sure that you look out for fantastic resources like ACE.
ACE is a way to go.
You're just the best. They really are.
And we're back. You're listening to Ace's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We're talking today about Gwen Brandon. She's the president of PCG Screening. As your company grows, the concept or idea of doing background screening may become important to you. It also could become important to your clients.
Yes.
They may demand it.
Yes.
And we had several clients who would say, we need to know that your people, like for certain contracts and things, had a certain type of background screening.
Yes. So I would recommend, like I said, all small business owners, if you are employing anybody who is going into a home or who's going to be interacting with any funds or anything like that, I would definitely suggest that they have a background screening service completed or a background screening on those employees, because you never know what's going to happen. Prior to this business, I had a residential cleaning business that I had.
Oh, did you?
And it was imperative that you screen people before you send them into people's homes to clean. So if you have somebody who's been arrested for theft or B&E or something like that, you want to make sure that you identify those people ahead of time. So anybody who's not trustworthy, you don't really want to trust them in people's homes with other people's things.
So you came into this knowing the importance of a service from sort of almost being from a client perspective.
Yes.
Yeah, and that helps you speak to the client about what they care about, what they're doing.
Exactly.
We put the background screening in place for one of the company I was talking about earlier, because one of the research companies here locally had a long-term employee who'd been with them for a decade, that trusted them, whatever, and she had been doing identity theft.
Oh, wow.
And had, stolen people's identities and stolen millions of dollars based on it. Because anytime somebody checked in and we were giving them cash, we had to know who they were in case we had to give them a 1099 or whatever. And she was siphoning that off to the side.
That's crazy. But I think, I don't want to say it happens often, but I think it happens more often than you think. And then a lot of times people's circumstances change. So even if you have an employee that you may have run a screen on, if they've been a long-term employee, who knows what their situation is at that particular time. And sometimes when life happens, it puts you in a different situation. And so it may I don't want to say open the door, but it may give you that inkling or that urge. It might tip you over the edge if you were, kind of teetering on the line of whether or not, to do something like that.
Right.
I think that kind of pushes people over the edge. So I would recommend that even if somebody's been there for 3 or 4 years, to conduct another screening just to make sure that they are still on the up and up.
Yeah, and I would say too also that the financial, from a financial perspective, it's often that people don't have the right checkpoints in place.
Yes.
They've got it's too closed a system of who's managing it. If there's the right checkpoints. Not true of going into someone's home.
No.
You have no idea. You need to know that. So as you talk about, the business and the transition, what's something that's different than you expected? I know you're very early in it, but
something that's different. I didn't know that there would be so many different types of investigations to complete. I came, like I said, prior military, so it's pretty much all federal service. We do a very intensive background screening. So I'm just kind of assuming that everybody goes along the same lines. But and even when I had the residential cleaning service, it was still just a criminal investigation. We really didn't look into financial issues or driving history or anything like that. But I think I should have. Now looking back on it, I should have, because these people are driving from place to place, and in that instance, driving is part of their job. So they have to drive from client to client. So that's it's an occupational hazard if they are terrible drivers and they're speeding and reckless or whatever. So I think just to be on the
and they're representing your company.
Yes, I think to be on the safe side, you have to make sure that you're covering yourself and your business so that you're not hiring somebody who's going to potentially be a liability.
I had a company where we had a truck, and it had the logos of the company and all that on it, and it was my truck, and I drove it around, and then it got old, and I gifted it to my brother-in-law, and he may or may not be the best driver. And he cut somebody off on the interstate.
And now they have your business.
And then they called us back at my business. They're like, who's da-da-da? And so then we made him take it and take all the logos off.
See, you got to be on top of that stuff.
We're like, you have to remove the logos off the car. So as you think about growing the business and moving forward, what are some of the things that you're looking for next? What's next for you?
Part of the enticing thing about this business was the amount of time and some of the benefits of that Gano had. So it's not a full-time position, so you maybe work 20, 25 hours a week, but it's a fairly easy business, and it's a good side hustle, I think.
Yeah.
But she didn't really expound on marketing. There was no marketing in place at all. It was simply that she was a member of a chamber of commerce, and so she got her customers through Chamber of Commerce meetings and maybe word of mouth. Somebody may have passed on her information to someone else. So once I get a good handle, 90 days out, I'm thinking by March 1st, then we can aggressively start to increase the business.
Okay.
So now we have...
So you've got a really good nucleus.
Yes. Yeah. We have right around 160 clients, and that's not something, every client is not going to utilize your services every day. So maybe we do 200 screens a month. But we could definitely increase the services. So we are reaching out to DeKalb County because it's now based out of DeKalb County. So we'll be a DeKalb County Chamber of Commerce member. We've also looked at some different services that are offered at the Georgia Tech, trying to look into local and government contracts. So that's the next move, I think, for me. I think state and local contracts will be a huge growth potential for us. So if we can get some businesses that are on a little bit larger scale, I think that'll push us out to a larger market of businesses.
Well, and even finding those complementary services, people who are doing something like HR consulting or whatever, and they need to add this as a component. It's a great way to be more full service.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times because we have such small customers or such small businesses, I think a lot of our clients, they do call now. I've fielded maybe 10 or 15 calls of customers that have received background checks and they didn't really know what to do with the information that they had. So say you have an adverse one or something that's kind of questionable on a social security trace, which is basically a credit check. So if they have 5 different names listed under their credit check, or if they have several different birthdays or aliases or locations where they lived, people call and they ask questions about how to address those situations. And that's why we don't just offer background screening, we do HR consulting as well. So we provide that service. If you have, a small company that's maybe 3 or 4 people, and you need somebody who's a little bit more proficient in interviewing, HR policy and those kinds of things, and we can definitely assist with that as well.
Okay. All right. How would someone, if they're in the process of deciding to maybe add this as a service or thinking about this in their company, what are some of the things they need to consider or look out for? And how do you even know what you need to screen for? Like, couldn't you be excessive with it? Like, screen for too much? Or do you think that you just should know everything?
I think it just depends. You could be a little bit aggressive. I have some clients who will request a local criminal and then a national criminal, and then they want a federal criminal, and all that's kind of show on the same report. So I can do all of them for you, but it's just an additional cost for you. If we do a national criminal, it automatically includes a sex offender registry. Okay. So there's no reason for you to request a Georgia sex offender registry if we're doing a national registry already. So those kinds of things, I think, is just it's imperative that you ask questions. If you're not sure, then call and ask, and we can definitely clarify or streamline the process for you. If you have several different clients, or if you have high turnover, I would suggest that if you have a background screening service in place, that you contact them and request a bundle service. So if you know that you typically use a local criminal check and a driver's, in an education screen, if you want to have those same things, repeated on every client or every customer that you supply, then they can do a bundle service for you so that you don't have to pay for those services a la carte. So I think asking those kind of questions and, kind of seeing what you can do with the services that the different screening agencies offer, I think that's helpful.
Do you think business owners come into this, like, what's the compelling event that makes them decide to add? Is it that they typically something bad happens?
Yeah, typically that's how it works.
Right.
Something bad will happen, and then their insurance is charged for it, or sometimes their insurance agency will recommend that they start to screen, and that'll encourage them to do that. But typically, it's because there was a bad apple, and they have to take on, because it's an additional cost, and nobody wants to, you try to cut costs, especially when you're a small business, you want to keep your overhead low. So I think... Well,
and I thought of it as a cost perspective, but even for me, and we did it because the other company got, like, that terrible thing happened to them, right? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we need to resolve for that risk.
Yeah.
What I thought of was the speed a little bit. So this is another step in the process. It's hard enough to hire somebody. Yeah. So simplifying that, I mean, it sounds like there's an online form and it's not too bad.
Correct. Our typical turnaround time for any background screen is 1 to 2 days, 2 days tops. Anything beyond that, it would be because it's difficult to get some records. So there are some records, say, an educational verification or employment verification. Yeah. I've run into recently a company that's based here, that has a location here in the States, but they're based in China. So it's difficult. It's almost impossible to get somebody on the phone to verify an employment with that kind of a company. So or high school education. So a lot of times, if people just have a high school education, it's hard to get in contact with that school or the Board of Education or whoever maintains those records from 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. So I think that's the most challenging piece. But typically, you can get a criminal background check back within 24 hours.
Yeah, and you can write into the offer letters too. You can go ahead and get an offer letter out to somebody. Correct. And then say, this is all contingent upon successfully passing our background check. You can onboard them and then say, something bad didn't work.
No,
didn't work. Well, I'm expecting it to work very well for you.
Me too.
I think this has been it does sound providential that the names were the same,
it was destined,
and all that kind of stuff. And it sounds like a really fun side hustle. So
it is so far. Hopefully, it'll be a main hustle in the next 3 or 4 years. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, it's smart to do both. Kind of double dip it, right?
There you go.
Go through, get your retirement done.
You have to have. I'm reading a lot of different books from a lot of different people.
Multiple revenue streams.
Yes, we need a lot of them. And so my husband and I are on the hustle. We're trying to get there.
Yeah, they say every billionaire has seven.
Mm-hmm.
7
I only have
income
3.
streams.
So got a long way to go.
Long way to go. I don't have to be a billionaire. Yes, doesn't have
But
to
it
be that.
doesn't hurt to be
No,
one.
it doesn't. No, it doesn't hurt.
And I think that's what everybody's ultimate goal is, to get to the next level.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you've been listening to Ace's Best Stories. We're talking today with Gwen Brandon. She's the president of PCG Screening. Join us next week as we bring you another story of an entrepreneur, small business owner, franchise purchaser, or a company purchaser along their own journey to success.